The old motel sat on the edge of town, half forgotten by time. Its neon sign flickered weakly, barely visible through the thick fog that rolled in after sunset. It wasn't the kind of place travelers picked unless they had no other choice. The paint peeled from the walls, the parking lot was cracked and overgrown, and the air smelled of mildew and something else. Something faintly metallic. No one ever stayed in room 7. The manager, an older man with deep lines on his face and tired eyes, never spoke of it. If a guest asked for a room, he would shuffle through the keys, his fingers instinctively skipping over the one marked with a faded number 7. If anyone insisted, he would shake his head and say, "It's under maintenance." But maintenance never came. The door to room 7 remained locked, the key collecting dust behind the counter. Then came Alex. He was just passing through, looking for a cheap place to crash before hitting the road again in the morning. The moment he stepped into the dimly lit lobby, he felt it. The air was heavier here, like the building itself was watching him. The manager barely looked up from his newspaper as Alex approached. "Just need a room for the night," Alex said, pulling out his wallet. The manager sighed, glancing at the mostly empty key rack. $50. Cash only. Alex counted out the bills and slid them across the counter. The manager reached for a key but hesitated, his hand hovering over the one for room 3. Then, as if something unseen nudged him, his fingers twitched and landed on a different key. The one with the faded number 7. He looked up at Alex, almost like he wanted to say something. But instead, he let out another tired sigh and slid the key forward. "Room 7, he muttered. Alex grabbed it without a second thought. The room was exactly what he expected. Small, musty, outdated. The wallpaper curled at the edges, the bedspread was a dull shade of brown, and the TV was one of those ancient box models. But he was too exhausted to care. He tossed his duffel bag onto the bed, kicked off his shoes and sat down with a groan. Then he noticed the mirror. It was the only thing in the room that seemed out of place. Too clean. Too new. It stretched from floor to ceiling, directly across from the bed. Something about it made his skin prickle, but he shook it off. Just a mirror. Just a cheap motel room. Nothing weird about it. Still, as he lay back on the bed, the mirror made him uneasy. He tried not to look at it, but his eyes kept drifting toward it. There was something strange about his reflection. It wasn't out of sync, but it felt delayed, like a fraction of a second behind his actual movements. Maybe it was just the bad lighting. The wind howled outside, rattling the thin motel windows. Somewhere down the hall, a faucet dripped steadily. Alex closed his eyes, listening to the steady tap-tap-tap, and let his exhaustion pull him under. Then, in the silence, he heard it. A whisper. Low. Faint. Right behind him. His eyes snapped open, his breath hitching in his throat. He sat up, heart pounding, and looked around the room. Nothing. The door was still locked. The window was shut. The mirror. His reflection wasn't moving. Alex froze. His pulse thundered in his ears. He lifted his hand. His reflection did not. Then slowly it smiled. And Alex realized, whatever was in the mirror wasn't him. Alex's breath caught in his throat. His muscles locked, his mind screaming at him to move, to do something, anything, but he couldn't. He could only sit there, staring at the thing in the mirror that should have been him. But it wasn't. It had his face, his body, his clothes. But the way it smiled, slow and unnatural, sent a deep, gut-churning fear through him. He blinked. The reflection didn't. His stomach turned. He forced himself to move, lifting his hand again in a jerky, uncertain motion. The thing in the mirror didn't copy him. It just sat there, grinning, its eyes locked onto his like it was waiting for something. Alex swallowed hard. His mouth felt dry. His skin crawled with the sickening sensation of being watched. No, studied. He tore his gaze away, forcing himself to focus on anything else. The bedside lamp cast a dull yellow glow, barely reaching the corners of the room. The wallpaper's faded floral pattern seemed to shift under the weak light, as if the walls themselves were breathing. This wasn't real. It had to be exhaustion messing with his head. But then he heard it again. The whisper. Closer this time. Right by his ear. Alex spun around so fast he nearly fell off the bed. But the room was empty. The door was still locked. The curtains barely moved. The only sound was the distant hum of the motel's flickering sign outside. His eyes darted back to the mirror. The reflection had moved. It was standing now, even though Alex hadn't gotten up. His own body stayed frozen on the bed, but the thing in the mirror had risen to its feet, staring down at him. The grin was gone. Its lips parted slightly, like it was about to say something. Alex's chest tightened. He didn't want to hear whatever it had to say. Slowly, carefully, he slid his legs off the bed, feet touching the scratchy motel carpet. The reflection didn't react. He took a deep breath and forced himself to move, stepping toward the bathroom. He wasn't going to look at the mirror again. He just needed to splash some water on his face, shake this weird feeling off, and maybe take a sleeping pill to knock himself out for the night. The bathroom light buzzed as it flickered on. The mirror above the sink was smaller, streaked with water spots, nothing like the massive one in the main room. Alex turned the faucet, cupped his hands, and splashed cold water onto his face. The shock helped clear his head. He gripped the sides of the sink, taking a shaky breath. "Get it together, man," he muttered. He lifted his head to look at his reflection. This one was normal. His own tired eyes stared back, dark circles heavy beneath them. He let out a breath, shaking his head at himself. He was just overtired. He hadn't slept much in the past few days. Too many hours on the road, too much caffeine and gas station food. A knock sounded from the main room. Hesitant. Alex stiffened, glancing toward the bathroom door. He hadn't heard anyone in the hallway when he checked in. He barely even saw another car in the lot. Another knock. His stomach twisted. Something about it didn't feel right. It wasn't the usual impatient rapping of a late-night visitor. It was deliberate. Too slow. He took a step forward, hesitant. "Hello." Silence. He reached for the doorknob, his fingers barely brushing it before a third knock came. Louder this time, more urgent. A cold unease crept over him. He swallowed and forced his voice to stay steady. "Who is it?" No answer. Alex exhaled sharply. It was probably the manager checking on him. Maybe he gave him the wrong room by accident. That had to be it. He pulled the door open. The hallway was empty. Alex's pulse spiked. His eyes darted left, then right. The entire hallway stretched out, dimly lit by a single flickering light at the far end. There was no sign of movement, no sound. Just the faint hum of the old motel's electrical wiring. He stepped out, glancing toward the lobby. Maybe the manager had walked off before he answered. But something made him hesitate. The air felt wrong. Heavy. Ill. Like the entire motel was holding its breath. Then, from inside his room, he heard the floor creak. Alex turned slowly. A mirror. He had left the bathroom light on, and from the doorway, he could see the edge of the large mirror. And something was standing in front of it. Not his reflection. Not anymore. His mouth went dry. His muscles tensed. He took a slow step back into the room, his heart hammering. The figure in the mirror wasn't moving, but it wasn't sitting anymore either. It was watching him. Its head tilted slightly, almost like it was curious. Alex's breath came shallow and fast. He felt the urge to run, to get out of this room and never look back. But his legs wouldn't cooperate. The thing in the mirror took a step forward. Alex didn't. It was moving on its own now. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over his bag. His hand shot out, grabbing the nightstand for balance. The lamp wobbled but didn't fall. Then, for the first time, the figure's mouth moved. But Alex couldn't hear it. Its lips formed words, slow and deliberate. But no sound came. Alex's entire body screamed at him to leave, to grab his bag, run to his car, and never look back. But he was frozen, caught between fear and disbelief. Then the whisper came again. Not from the mirror. From behind him. His stomach dropped. He didn't want to turn around. Every instinct told him not to. But something in the silence shifted. Soft breath. Right next to his ear. And then the lamp flickered out. Darkness swallowed the room. The darkness was suffocating. It pressed in on Alex from all sides, thick and absolute. His breath came in short, uneven gasps as he strained his ears for any sound, anything to tell him he wasn't alone in that room. But the silence stretched, long and unnatural. Then a soft shuffle. Not from the mirror. From the corner of the room. Alex's heart pounded so hard it felt like his ribs would crack. He couldn't see a thing. His hand fumbled blindly on the nightstand, searching for the lamp switch, but his fingers met nothing but air. A whisper slid through the dark. Not words. Just the faint, chilling sound of something breathing. The air turned ice cold. A deep, aching cold that seeped into his bones. And movement. Low. Deliberate. Something shifting in the room. Alex clenched his jaw, forcing himself to stay still, to listen. His body screamed for him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He could feel it now, something standing near him just out of reach. Then a click. The lamp flickered back to life. The room was empty. Alex's breath came in ragged bursts. His eyes darted around, searching. The door was still locked. The curtains hadn't moved. His bag lay untouched. Everything was exactly where it had been, except for one thing. A mirror. His reflection was gone. A sharp, nauseating wave of fear washed over him. The mirror still reflected the room, the bed, the nightstand, even the flickering lamp, but not him. He lifted a shaking hand. Nothing. He stepped forward. Nothing. His own image had vanished. A deep, suffocating silence filled the room. He could hear his pulse thudding in his ears. His own reflection was missing, but something told him. He wasn't alone. The whisper came again. Low. Distorted. His skin prickled. His eyes darted to the mirror, scanning every inch of it. And then, hand. Pressing against the inside of the glass. Fingers long and pale, smudging against the surface like something was trying to push through. Alex stumbled back, knocking into the bed. His breath came fast and shallow, his chest tightening with pure terror. The hand dragged downward, leaving faint streaks along the glass. Then, another hand. Then a face. It wasn't his. The features were distorted, stretched too long, the mouth too wide, the eyes dark and hollow. The thing pressed closer, its breath fogging up the inside of the mirror. Then its lips moved. Alex could barely process what he was seeing, but he could read the words forming in the reflection. Meow. His stomach twisted. His legs finally obeyed him, and he bolted for the door. His hands fumbled with the lock, yanking and twisting, but it wouldn't budge. Behind him, the whisper grew louder, more urgent. Alex slammed his shoulder against the door. Once. The wood groaned, but it wouldn't break. His pulse pounded in his skull. Then the whisper stopped. The room fell eerily still. Alex turned, breath-shuddering. The mirror was empty again. His reflection had returned. But something was wrong. It was smiling. Alex wasn't. The realization sent a bolt of ice through his spine. He lifted his shaking hand. His reflection copied him now, but slower. Too slow. And that smile. It wasn't his. Then, without warning, the reflection took a step forward. Alex didn't move. His stomach dropped. The figure inside the mirror was no longer just a reflection. It was stepping out. The glass rippled like the surface of a pond. The figure pushed forward, its hands sliding through first, then its face, then. Alex didn't wait to see the rest. He threw his weight against the door one last time, and with a sharp crack, it burst open. He stumbled into the hallway, nearly falling as he gasped for air. The motel was silent. The hallway stretched out in both directions, dimly lit by the flickering bulb at the far end. His hands shook as he fumbled for his phone, his fingers slipping over the screen. He needed to call someone, anyone. But when he looked down at the screen, his stomach lurched. The front-facing camera was on. And behind him, a figure stood in the doorway of room 7, watching him, smiling. Alex didn't turn around. He ran. Alex's footsteps pounded against the thin motel carpet as he sprinted down the hallway. His breath came in ragged gasps, his heart hammering so hard it hurt. He didn't dare look back. He didn't need to. He could feel it. Something was behind him, close enough that the air felt heavier, colder. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, the dim overhead light flickering erratically. The front desk, he just needed to make it to the front desk. The old man, the manager. He'd seen something in his eyes earlier. Like he knew. Alex turned a corner and nearly slammed into the lobby counter. "Help!" His voice came out hoarse, almost strangled. His hands gripped the wooden edge so tight his knuckles went white. Something's in my room. You have to." The lobby was empty. The chair behind the desk sat slightly askew, the old newspaper still resting on the counter, pages curling at the edges. But the manager was gone. Alex swallowed hard, his chest rising and falling in panicked bursts. He spun around, scanning the room. A small TV flickered behind the desk, playing static. The old motel clock above it ticked forward, steady and unbothered, like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. A door creaked open somewhere behind him. Alex froze. The sound wasn't loud, but in the dead silence of the motel, it was deafening, low, purposeful. He turned his head just enough to see. Down the hallway, room 7's door was open again, but he had left it shut. His breath hitched. The room beyond was pitch black, nothing but a gaping void. But something was there, standing in the doorway, watching. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket. The sudden vibration made him jolt, his pulse spiking even higher. His trembling fingers scrambled to grab it. He barely registered the unknown number flashing across the screen before answering. Hello. His voice cracked, static, in a whisper, low, distorted, crawling through the speaker. Don't run. Alex's breath caught in his throat. He yanked the phone away like it had burned him. But before he could react, something moved in the hallway. Not footsteps. Shift. A flicker like a bad TV signal. The figure was closer now. Alex stumbled backward, his mind screaming at him to move, to get out. He turned, bolting for the front door. His fingers grasped the handle, twisted. It didn't budge. He yanked harder. No. He slammed his fist against it, his pulse roaring in his ears. He turned back, heart slamming against his ribs. The figure was at the edge of the lobby now. Not walking, gliding. Its movements were slow, deliberate, almost teasing. The air around it rippled like the space itself was bending. Then, under the flickering light, Alex saw its face. His face. But wrong. Stretched. Hollow. Smiling. His stomach turned violently. Every instinct screamed that whatever this was, it wasn't human. The whisper came again, but this time, it wasn't from his phone. It was right behind him. Alex's breath shuddered. He could feel it, something pressing close, cold air brushing the back of his neck. His hands clenched into fists, his body paralyzed between fight and flight. Then slowly, a hand settled onto his shoulder. Cold. Too cold. Alex snapped. He threw himself forward, twisting violently, shoving whatever was behind him away. He stumbled, catching himself on the counter, his eyes darting wildly. Nothing. The lobby was empty. His breaths came in short, panicked bursts. His pulse was erratic, his skin clammy with sweat. He turned back toward the hallway. The figure was gone. The door to room 7 stood open, yawning black. And then, sound. Not a whisper. Not static. Laugh. Low. Mused. Inside his head. Alex's body locked up. A mirror. The thing in the mirror. It was never just inside the room. It was inside him. Alex's breath came in short, sharp gasps. His mind screamed at him to make sense of it, to fight, but something deep inside whispered that he had already lost. That thing. The reflection, it was inside him now. His head felt heavy, like something was pressing down on his skull. A dull ringing buzzed in his ears, growing louder, cutting through his thoughts. He clutched his temples, squeezing his eyes shut. But the second he did, he saw it. Not just in the mirror. Not just in the room. It was behind his eyes. Watching. Waiting. His body swayed, legs unsteady beneath him. He felt like he was floating, no sinking. The floor seemed too far away, the air too thick. His own limbs foreign, as if they weren't completely his anymore. His fingers twitched, moving out of sync with his own thoughts. Then the whisper came again, curling through his skull. "Let me in." Alex stumbled backward, his heel catching the edge of the lobby counter. His heart pounded against his ribs, his breath ragged. "Get out of my head," he hissed, his voice barely his own. A chuckle echoed through his mind, not from outside, not from the hallway or the mirror, from within. "But I already am." A cold shiver crawled up Alex's spine. His body suddenly felt wrong. Like something was shifting beneath his skin, stretching in ways it shouldn't. His fingers curled against his palm involuntarily, his breathing hitching as his own muscles tensed against his will. Panic surged through him. He stumbled toward the motel door, hands slamming against it, twisting the knob desperately. Still locked. His mind raced. Think. Then his reflection. The glass panel of the motel door caught his image in the dim light. He barely glanced at it at first until he realized. It wasn't following his movements. He froze. His body trembled, but in the glass, his reflection stood eerily still. Straight back. Unmoving. Watching. Then it smiled. A deep, slow grin that stretched just a little too wide, a little too wrong. Alex's stomach turned violently. He recoiled from the door, his pulse a deafening roar in his ears. His reflection didn't. Stayed, facing him, smiling, unblinking. Then it lifted a hand. Alex's blood ran cold. He hadn't moved. The reflection raised its palm slowly, pressing it against the inside of the glass. A sickening understanding slithered through Alex's gut. It wasn't trapped anymore. He was. The realization slammed into him, suffocating. His body felt heavier by the second, his vision blurring at the edges. The air in his lungs turned thick, sluggish, like he was breathing through water. The buzzing in his skull grew deafening, his thoughts unraveling. The reflection's mouth moved. Alex watched, helpless, as his own voice came from the glass. "You should have left when you had the chance." The lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Alex couldn't see his hands, couldn't see the motel lobby, couldn't even tell if his eyes were open or shut. The air was thick, pressing against him like invisible hands, suffocating and heavy. The silence stretched, unnatural and absolute. Then footsteps, low, deliberate, not coming toward him, circling. Alex's breathing turned shallow. His body felt wrong, like he wasn't fully in control anymore. His fingers twitched at his sides, but the movement felt delayed, sluggish. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus, to move, but something pushed back. Something inside him. A low chuckle echoed in his skull. Not outside, inside. Then the voice. Smooth, amused, curling around his thoughts like smoke. "You feel it now, don't you?" Alex stiffened. He tried to speak, but his throat tightened like something was gripping it from the inside. The shift. The whisper came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The unraveling. His breath hitched. You were never meant to leave. A sharp pain lanced through his skull. Alex gasped, stumbling forward. His hands shot out, desperate to grab onto something, but the darkness had swallowed everything. There was no ground, no walls, no motel, just an endless, consuming void. Then suddenly light, blinding, piercing. Alex squeezed his eyes shut against the sharp sting. When he forced them open again, he was standing in front of the mirror. Not in the lobby, not in the hallway, in room 7. His stomach twisted. No, this wasn't real. He had escaped. He had run. Hadn't he? The mirror stood before him, tall and looming. But it wasn't just reflecting the room anymore. It was reflecting him. And the other him. Alex's breath came in short, ragged bursts as he took a shaky step back. His reflection stayed still. Then it moved. Not to mimic him. On its own. His heart slammed against his ribs as the figure in the mirror tilted its head, that same slow, eerie motion. Then, it lifted a hand and pressed it against the glass. Alex shook his head. No, you're not real. The reflection grinned. Then it stepped forward. The glass didn't shatter. It rippled. The surface wavered, bending like liquid as the thing pushed through. Alex's body locked up. He tried to move, to run, to scream, but he couldn't. His limbs wouldn't listen. His own breath felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else. The thing stepped out completely, and Alex saw its eyes. They were his, but empty, hollow. The room tilted, spinning violently, the air compressing around him. The weight in his head grew unbearable, and then, a sickening pull. His vision blurred. His body lurched backward. Into the mirror. Alex's mouth opened in a silent scream as the cold glass swallowed him whole. The world warped, bending and twisting, then snapped. Everything stilled. He gasped, his body trembling. His hands gripped something solid, the motel nightstand. His legs felt weak, barely holding him up. He sucked in a breath, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The mirror stood in front of him again. Perfect. Untouched. Alex swallowed hard and turned. His reflection was watching him. From the other side of the glass. The truth hit him like a punch to the gut. He was inside. His reflection, the other him, was out there. Living his life. Walking around in his body. Free. Alex slammed his fists against the glass. No, let me out. But his reflection just smiled. Then slowly it turned and walked away, leaving Alex trapped in the mirror. Forever. Alex pounded against the cold surface of the mirror, his fists slamming into it over and over, but the glass didn't even tremble. His breath came in ragged gasps as panic clawed at his chest. The world on the other side, the real world, was moving on without him. The other Alex strolled toward the motel door, rolling his shoulders, testing his new body like someone stretching after a long nap. Then, just before he stepped out, he hesitated. He turned back. Their eyes met. A slow, knowing smile crept across the reflection's face, like it was savoring the moment. Then, in a gesture so casual it was almost mocking, the other Alex lifted a hand and waved. Alex screamed. No, you can't. But the imposter was already gone. The motel door swung shut with a soft, final click. Silence swallowed the room. Alex's pulse thundered in his ears. He pressed his palms against the mirror, his entire body shaking. He tried to convince himself this wasn't real, that he would wake up, that somehow, someway this could be undone. But deep down he already knew. The mirror wasn't a window anymore. It was a wall. Prison. His breath hitched as he turned, taking in his new reality. The room behind him looked identical to the one he'd just been standing in, but there was something off. The air felt heavy, thick like fog. The walls seemed darker, the corners stretching into endless shadows. And the silence, it wasn't normal. It pressed against his ears, unnatural and absolute, like the world outside no longer existed. Alex swallowed hard. He wasn't just trapped. He was somewhere else. A flicker of movement caught his eye. His stomach turned to ice. In the mirror, not his own but the one on the far wall, something shifted. Shape. Figure. Not him. Alex took a step back. The thing in the reflection moved closer. Its outline was vague, distorted, like it was trapped beneath deep water. But he could see its eyes. Dark. Hollow. Endless. He knew with bone-deep certainty that it had been waiting. And now it wasn't alone anymore. Terror coiled around Alex's throat. He spun back to the mirror, desperate, pressing his forehead against the glass. "Please," he whispered. "Please let me out." But his own reflection was gone. The mirror no longer showed him. It only showed the room. As if he had never been there at all. A cold realization crept over him. This had happened before. Room 7 had always been waiting for someone else to take their place. And now, it had him. The whisper came again, soft, curling through the air like smoke. "Welcome home." Alex squeezed his eyes shut, his heart hammering. No, he couldn't accept this. There had to be a way out. But then, outside the mirror, on the other side of reality, he heard something. The distant ring of a motel bell. Someone was checking in. A chill ran through him. His stomach twisted. Slowly, Alex turned back toward the shadows in the other mirror. And smiled.